Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you an action horror film, Project Wolf Hunting. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a reporter talking about an entire group of Korean criminals being extracted from the Philippines. There's a huge commotion as the public watches the criminals being brought in, but things get worse when an old man loses his mind upon seeing one of the criminals. The old man charges at the criminal and sets off a bomb that sends everyone in the area straight to meet Jesus. 5 years later, a similar group of criminals is being transported to Korea. But this time, a cargo ship is being used for transportation in order to avoid a repeat of what happened last time. The cops make their way to the cargo port and take the criminals one by one. The cop leader starts taking a record of the criminals, but a tattooed criminal named Tattoo starts mocking his daughter. This triggers cop leader, so he beats up Tattoo without mercy. Regardless, Tattoo spits blood on his face, and it leads to an even more severe beating. One of the other criminals doesn't approve of this behavior, but he also gets slapped for his rebellion. Now, the criminals get lined up to be escorted to the Korean prison facility by ship. Meanwhile, a commander goes to the Korean prison facility and tells the cops he's taking over their operations to oversee the successful transportation of the incoming criminals. Back to the ship, all of the criminals are locked up in their cargo cells and are told about the crimes they've committed. Apart from Tattoo, there's also Lee, who has been accused of special atrocities, and Psycho, who has been accused of killing her husband and his parents. Now, cop leader informs the criminals about their allowances, but doesn't allow them to use a toothbrush. The ship's captains coordinate the location with the navigation team. In the middle of this, the doctor and nurse, who work there as volunteers, sort out their medical material, but doctor appears to be a little shady. He makes his way down into the engine section of the ship, after which the criminals are given food to eat. Now, Doctor enters a restricted area, while a shady man named Shady messes around with the doors. Doctor meets an underground man downstairs and bribes him with food. He is then taken to see a zombie man named Alpha, who is the subject of an illegal experiment. Doctor checks out Alpha's smelly mouth and is disgusted to see all the maggots inside it. He is told to buck up and be a man, so he proceeds to inject Alpha's body with a mysterious drug. As the ship proceeds to make its way out of the Philippines, a couple of cop assistants joke around with each other, while Tattoo watches them with disgust. He pours some blood into his palm, revealing he's had a pin inside his mouth, which he uses to unlock his cuffs. Tattoo then gives the pin to his cell buddy. Meanwhile, Shady and his men kill some of the crew members and spare nobody any mercy. They continue their killing spree in a brutal fashion and drag all the bodies into a freezer for storage. Shady makes his way into the captain's deck, where everyone is enjoying some music. He spoils the party by shooting almost everyone and leaving only 2 captains alive. Shady then shoots down the communications and also stops the radio. Commander notices this and gets worried, so he tells his cop team to get to work immediately. A cop girl isn't able to get through to anyone on the radio, so she goes to meet the other cops, leaving one of her assistants in charge of Psycho and another female criminal. Now, Tattoo and his buddy trick one of the cops into their cell and kill him in a bloody sequence. It starts off with Tattoo biting his ear off and ends with his buddy using the cuffs to smash his head. On the other hand, Shady's men continue their attack on the cops and kill most of them in the process. It turns out that Shady's men are all under Tattoo's control. Later, after some greetings, Tattoo takes out his smelly part and pees on one of the dead cops to mark his dominance like a mad dog. Meanwhile, Cop Girl bumps into Doctor and points her gun at him, but Cop Leader and his assistants show up to clear the confusion. However, they spot one of Shady's men with an axe, so they go after him. Now that the criminals are free, one of them wants to get with Cop Girl, but Tattoo shoots him down because he wants her uniform body all to himself. He then confronts the criminal Lee because he is being ungrateful. Lee simply tells Tattoo to be a good boy and advises him against doing something he'll regret later. Now, Cop Leader and his assistants check out the captain's deck, but find one of Shady's men there. Cop Leader engages in a fight with him, but Shady and his other bullies come out of hiding and fire at the cops, killing one of the assistants in the process. The cops return fire, but the going gets tough. Now, Tattoo changes into his summer clothes to flex his tattooed muscles and moves ahead with his gang, while Lee contemplates all the death around him. Cop Girl tricks Shady into killing one of his own men, but he tries to gain the advantage by taking one of the captains as his hostage. Shady lures out Cop Leader and his other assistant and is about to shoot them, but Cop Girl attacks him. A tense sequence follows, but Cop Girl is able to free herself, and then Shady is shot down for good. Cop Girl talks to the hostage captain and asks for a way to communicate with the others in Korea. He tells her she can go to the engine room and use the satellite phone over there. Doctor runs to his room like a scared chicken and finds Nurse enjoying some beer. He locks the room to keep them safe for some beer time, but Nurse says that she wants to try some hormone yoga. Doctor doesn't understand her hints, so he starts talking about his fortune teller. This spoils Nurse's mood, so she goes back to drinking to quench her raging desire. Somewhere else, the underground man continues his experiment with his nerd assistant, but Alpha's body starts to breathe heavily, and he takes off his oxygen mask. Tattoo and his men find some engine workers and threaten them into giving up the location of the engine room. Then, they proceed towards the engine room and wreak havoc there. Meanwhile, Cop Leader and his team meet some more cops and decide to unite after realizing that Tattoo had planned this takeover even before he was loaded into the ship. The chief engineer is brought in front of Tattoo, and he tries to bargain for his life by saying that only he can keep the ship running. However, Tattoo and his men laugh at the chief engineer, and Tattoo is about to stab him. However, Lee stops him because he's going too far. Then, Cop Leader arrives with his team. Unfortunately, the chief engineer says that they can't shoot in the engine room, otherwise it might lead to a total shutdown of the ship. Tattoo doesn't care about his smelly bullshit, and an eccentric attack is launched upon the cops. During this hectic sequence, Tattoo tries to slash Cop Leader, but he gets smacked, and the battle continues with diabetic blood spilling on both sides. This is all put to a stop when Alpha shows up. He is shown to have an alpha body, which makes him immune to bullets and gives him super strength as well. Alpha shows off his powers by killing whoever is in front of him in a gory and bloody fashion. No one is able to land a single scratch on Alpha, so Tattoo tries to escape with his men. However, Alpha follows after them and kills the other men. Tattoo tries shooting at Alpha with his AK-69, hoping to make a 69 mark on his body, but it's of no use as he runs out of bullets. Alpha mercilessly smashes Tattoo's head to a pulp, and then the ship shuts down due to an engine failure. The backup supply kicks in, but Alpha comes back to attack Cop Leader. Lee finally springs into action and attacks Alpha with his skinny muscles. Despite the size difference, Lee is able to put up a fight, but is still no match for Alpha. He also notices a prison tattoo on Alpha, and it makes him curious. Luckily, Lee manages to save Cop Leader, and then Cop Girl helps him out by shooting Alpha's hand. Alpha holds off the closing door, while the surviving team tries to escape. But Lee kicks him away, and keeps everyone safe for now. Among the survivors is an old criminal, who is unable to recognize Alpha, even though he's been a prisoner for 30 years. On the other hand, Commander learns that the ship has been taken over, and he laments the current situation. However, Commander is shown to be in cahoots with a villain who is getting his smelly part eaten by a slave. Commander has an argument with Villain regarding the Alpha situation, but is eventually told to shut up and bring Alpha to Villain, as this was always the plan right from the start. Commander gets angry and punches a pole, revealing that he also has super strength. Now, we see that Psycho has also broken free and has kept the female cop as her prisoner. She bumps into another group led by a fat criminal named Fatty, so they have a nice chat together. Meanwhile, the captains try to escape, but Alpha breaks free and kills them both one after the other. Nurse hears the commotion and tries to see what's going on, but she gets killed by Alpha when he bursts through the glass window. Doctor pees his pants and escapes in a frenzy, but bumps into the survivor team. Cop Girl holds him down, and then Doctor reveals that he was paid by Villains Association to give Alpha a power drug that is responsible for giving him his powers. The old criminal confirms that the Evil Association is known for creating such drugs, which also make you live for hundreds of years without aging. The old criminal is badly injured, so Doctor leads the team to the underground room, where there are some medical supplies. Alpha attacks Psycho's team and brutally kills them one by one, leaving only Psycho and Fatty alive. They watch on in horror, as Alpha shows off his impeccable strength, and they escape as soon as possible. The survivor team continues their quest, and they find the spot from where Alpha broke out. A brief flashback shows how Alpha killed the underground man with his own arm, and then the team also notices the aftermath of the attack on Psycho's team. There's no time to waste, so Cop Girl goes to find some secret files. It's revealed that Alpha was born in 1911 and was a prisoner of war on an island where the Japanese would conduct sick, twisted experiments on him. This was what turned Alpha into an alpha monster. Psycho and Fatty try to escape by a lift, but it's of no use as Alpha jumps on top of it, and possibly Fatty is too heavy. He shoots at them while Doctor reads out Alpha's characteristics. We learn that he is 5 times stronger than a normal human being and reacts strongly to the smell of blood and hormones due to his prolonged sense of trauma. A flashback takes us to 1943, where some Japanese scientists are completing their experiment on Alpha in front of an army squad. They seemingly succeed and celebrate their achievement, but Alpha breaks free and kills all of them in a nasty fashion. The scene transitions to Alpha attacking Psycho and Fatty in the lift. He catches Fatty easily because he's too fat to run fast, and Psycho tries to save him, but it's of no use. Cop Leader shows up and takes Psycho away, while Alpha kills Fatty in a custom-made style, ending his fat life. The lift drops to the ground and has a mini explosion, but it does nothing to Alpha. As the survivors try to survive, Commander and his men make it to the ship by a chopper. We can see that all the men in this chopper are super soldiers. Now Cop Leader finds the dead body freezer and tells Psycho to hide inside it while he fights Alpha. A fierce battle follows, and Cop Leader is dominated, but he doesn't lose hope and manages to bite off Alpha's arm. He even celebrates his achievement before he gets killed. Now Alpha enters the freezer, where Psycho plays dead on top of all the dead bodies. He smells her bad body odor for a bit, but hears the chopper, so he moves away. Now Psycho gets up and runs her smelly body away, after which she bumps into Commander and his men. She starts talking about Alpha, but keeps rambling like a psycho, so Commander shoots her down. Then, Cop Girl and the others arrive and threaten Commander, but he shoots down Cop Girl, killing her as well. Lee has had enough, so he shows off his own powers and dominates the super soldiers, after which he confronts Commander. It turns out that they know each other, because Lee was also a prisoner of war, just like Alpha. A flashback shows how Commander and his men would use people like Lee for all kinds of disgusting experiments. Lee had seemingly died in the process. After that, he was dumped next to some pigs, along with other dead bodies. However, Lee had survived the ordeal, and he made it out of there alive with enhanced powers. This caused problems for Commander, so he ended up killing Lee's wife and son to traumatize him. Back to the present, Lee attacks Commander, but gets thrown away because Commander has a higher level of super strength. Now, Alpha shows up and takes on the super soldiers. A powerful encounter follows, where both Lee and Alpha put their skills on display. It comes down to the Commander and Alpha, but Commander is actually more powerful than Alpha himself. Meanwhile, Doctor takes Cop Girl's gun and tries to escape into the chopper. Commander dominates Alpha ruthlessly and throws him around like an adult toy. Doctor enters the chopper and threatens the pilot to take them out of there, but he says there's no fuel. It leads to a shootout where everyone dies inside the chopper. Meanwhile, Commander finally terminates Alpha by smacking him down into a beta and making him bleed to death. Lee finishes off the other super soldiers, so the final matchup is between him and Commander. Commander is almost unbeatable with his strength and skill, but then he reminds Lee that he killed his son. It awakens Lee's inner strength, and he begins to dominate against Commander. The battle rages on and eventually ends with Lee charging at Commander and taking him down into the ocean. Later, Villain enters his superhuman prison and meets a young boy. There we learn that Villain was also in the same prison camp as Alpha, and this young boy is actually Lee's son. It turns out that Commander spared the boy when he realized he had inherited superpowers from Lee. The movie ends with Lee surfacing to the shore, signaling his victory over Commander. He then walks into the wilderness, symbolizing his new beginning. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.